Okay, hi everyone. For those of you guys who just joined, right, welcome. So for today, we will be doing our live analysis, right? I'll just give it about 1 to 2 more minutes for more people to stream in, and then we will start the session proper. Right, at the same time, if you guys have any questions with regards to the analysis, right, that's as well, right, put them under the questions tab. So let me just give it about 1 to 2 more minutes for more people to stream in, and we will get the session started. Okay, so let's get the session started, right? So for those of you guys who just joined, welcome. So for today, we will be doing our live analysis session. So let me just bring it up to the front page. Sorry for that. Okay, so we will be doing our live analysis session for today. And as always, if you guys have any questions with regards to the analysis, right, do put them under the questions tab. So I'll be going through mainly on Aussie dollar and dollar index today, and also showing you guys a few setups that we covered on Friday. So if you guys have any questions or any charts that you want us to take a look at, right, please do put them under the questions tab as well. Okay, so let's get the session started, right? So for today, just a brief background about myself. So I'm an FX strategist. I provide FX advisory to institutional clients. I'm also part of the team that's recognized by the Technical Analyst Awards for 4 consecutive years. Right, so if you guys have any questions with regards to the analysis, so we do have webinars on a daily basis, and on Wednesdays and Fridays, right, this is when we will hop onto the charts, mainly to show the trade setups, do the review of the calls that were made earlier. And then at the same time, if you guys have any chat requests as well, right, don't hesitate to put them under the chat box. So I will just leave the chat box running in my other screen so that I'm able to see the questions by you guys, right? So if you have any questions, do put them under the questions chat. Okay, there we go. Okay, so you can also reach out to me on LinkedIn. So if you have questions with regards to the analysis that were done, or if you're watching a recording, right, you can also find me on LinkedIn as well. So just a quick disclaimer before we start, right? The information presented over here is not to be treated as investment advice. It's for educational purposes only. So this will be the agenda that we are covering for today. So for a start, right, we will be covering on the key economic events. Okay, I have so we'll be covering on the key economic events, and then following which we will be doing a trade setups, right? So we'll be going through mainly on Aussie dollar and also a review on the dollar index. And then following which we will also be hopping onto the charts just to see a few other setups that you guys requested for on Friday. And we also will open the door to chat requests. So if you guys have any charts that you want us to take a look at specifically, right, please put them under the chat box. So either under the Q&A tab or the chat box, right? So either or works. So let's first do a review of the calls that were made, right? Actually, before we do a review of the calls that were made on Friday, right, let's just hop onto the economic calendar just to see the key news events for today. So it's important, especially if we have upcoming monetary policy meeting or key data. So for example, yesterday we saw the CPI inflation, the CPI data, which is basically inflation, right? Measuring inflation for US. And that came up to be higher than expected. So with that in mind, right, you can see that it helps push the dollar higher. So I'll just hop onto the economic calendar, right? So for economic calendar, right, you can go to vantagemarkets.com or you can use Forex Factory, either one, right? Just go to education and tools under economic calendar here. So there we go. So this is the page, right? So essentially you can see that this would show all the currencies that are related, right, to the news release. Let me just give it a while for it to load. Okay, so this is what we have, right? So essentially, this will show the different currencies and the impact of the currencies on that data release. So you can see that for the coming one that we have, right, mainly it will be on dollar, so dollar PPI data, and as well as crude oil inventory data. So this is on dollar. So yesterday, right, just a brief background on this. You can see that yesterday CPI data was, I believe, at 0.6%. So it actually exceeded the 0.3% expectation. So just bring this up. So, okay, maybe not. Let me just switch this. So let's bring, I think you can see here. So there we go. So this is the one, right? So essentially core CPI data. So this measures inflation. So core CPI data excludes food and energy, whereas for CPI data itself, it's general measures basically price changes. So essentially what we have over here, you can see that core CPI stands at 0.6% for August, but this exceeds 0.3% expectations, and inflation is something that the Fed has been watching very closely. So when you have such price changes, especially when it goes above market expectations, then it triggers potentially even more interest rate hikes ahead, right, for the Fed to clamp down on inflation. So with that, we saw dollar strengthen yesterday. So if you take a look at all the dollar pairs, right, or dollar index specifically, just yesterday on the release, you can see that there was this huge bullish candle up. So this is how, in general, right, we just want to be on track in terms of the market events so that we are aware of the key economic releases. So with that, right, now that we have identified all this, you can see that the the ones that are coming up for dollar, it will be mainly on the PPI data as well as New Zealand's GDP data and Aussie. So these are the ones that will be impacted. So let's take a look at now the charts. So for the charts, we do have a few that we want to review, right? On dollar index, Euro dollar, pound Kiwi, as well as Aussie franc. So pound Kiwi and Aussie franc, they are requested from you guys. So let's take a look at them. And then following which we will be going through on Aussie dollar gold as well as dollar index. So let's take a look at that. So let's first start with dollar index. So on the higher time frame on dollar index, if you take a look at it here, you can see that this is on the monthly time frame. So let's start from the monthly time frame first. So on the monthly time frame, what we have is that there is this support and resistance level. We did a Fibonacci retracement of the move as well from high to low. You can see here, right? So taking this move from high to low, just to find the retracement on the resistance, you can see that this is the 78.6 retracement. So we found a monthly resistance. We have retracement level line here, and we saw price tap into this area. When we go down to the 4 hours time frame, you can see that at this area itself, essentially price coming into this region. What we have over here, maybe before the 4 hours, right, on the daily, you can see in terms of the daily structure, still bullish. How so? If you look at the highs and lows, you can see that prices are still forming your higher lows and higher highs. So within this leg itself, right, even if we do see the pullback, this leg itself, it broke the previous high. So coming into this resistance zone on the monthly, this area, this red area that we found here, coming into this resistance zone on the monthly, it's still bullish market structure on your daily. So with that, right, the next thing that we identified, it's, I believe, on the 4 hours time frame, this demand area. So you can see this area over here, essentially price coming into this region. We saw that pullback and then pushing deeper into this resistance area that we have over here. So this is the demand region. So price came into this region, and you can see over here, it tapped into it, pushed higher, right? So we also highlighted this resistance area that we have here, this region over here. So this was the previous support and resistance level, but you can see that within this level itself, right? So price came into this region, and our call back on Friday is that we could still see a deeper pullback into this resistance leg. So this whole leg itself, we could see the deeper pullback, but I believe a big part of it was really triggered by the CPI data. So over here, right, so this is one, price came in, tapped into this resistance area. So for me on dollar index, the higher time frame is still sitting on resistance. But if you go to the 4 hours, you can see that currently prices are also holding above support region over here. So for me right now, sitting within this zone, right? Ideally, what we want to wait for a clearer break. So this case, this retracement levels that we drew, it's not valid anymore. The reason why it's not valid anymore is because when we do retracement, right, we want to identify the move from high to low. You can see that back when we look at the chart, we are somewhere here in time on the demand area here. So which is why right now when prices push lower, this region itself right? This levels is not valid. So this is important that when we cover this setups, right? When we take the retracement and extension levels to new low, then in this case, our reference point would have to change. So in this case, right now where it is currently, this is not valid anymore. Price came in and wick above this region, you can see. So currently what you have on the 4 hours is a clear structure here, a new low that is being put in. So we have two situations, right? The one is where we see price push higher. So right now, this is the low that's being formed. We could see prices break the structure, right? And then this would be the next support area, which is this zone over here. Okay, this is slightly laggy. Okay, so it's this zone over here. So that's one. So right now, this is the area, right? For me, on the higher time frame, it's more bearish. But if you look at a 4 hours time frame, it's currently sitting on support level. Okay, so it's currently sitting on support level. Plus, there is also this whole fundamental push behind it, right? Mainly more on the hawkish Fed. Okay, so I have a question, right? Can dollar index possible future bet upward search break goes 1700 range? So let's take a look at that on Go. Okay, so this is generally what it's like on dollar index, right? So let's take a look at Go. Oops. Okay. Let me just load the right chart that we use to cover it. Okay, so this is our view on Go. So I think back on the higher time frame first, right? So previously on Go, there was no clear setup. You can see over here, right, on the weekly time frame, essentially this region itself, this was a previous support turn resistance, or rather resistance turn support area, right? So this region that we've highlighted over here, you can see this area over here, right? So essentially how so price came in and it interacted with this region multiple times, both as a resistance coming down and also as a support where price clearly breaks above it, retest this region and push higher. You see the same interaction coming in here as well. So this would be the higher time frame support region. And apart from that, we also did a retracement of the move last week, right? So from the low to high over here, and you can see that this region, the support region also highlighted lines in with the 61.8 retracement. So this when we go down to the daily time frame, you can see this region itself. So one other thing to note is that on the daily time frame, price broke below this ascending trend line. It's also holding below the support and resistance level. You can see price testing this region as a support, right? So we covered this as well, support and then failing and retesting this region as a resistance. So what we have on the daily currently, it's clear structure here. So you can see that on this last leg, so we just focus on this region, right? Because this area itself, it's the most recent price development. So let's take a look at it. So I'm just going to remove all this marking so that we keep our charts tidy. You can see this region itself, right? This is the last high on the daily time frame. And then coming into this, right, we have support on the weekly as well. And if you go down to the 4 hours time frame, let's go to the 4 hours time frame. So previously we highlighted this region, right? So over here, this is the resistance. You can see price again interacted with it multiple times and then price broke above it. So our bias, it's more bullish on the higher time frame, mainly on the 4 hours because of the break above resistance. Sorry for that. So that is on the 4 hours. And you can see that we have also highlighted this region over here on the 4 hours. So this candle. And the reason for this is because you can see that this was the push up where we saw price with above this resistance area. So again, right, if I were to pan out this move, you can see maybe in terms of line chart, it will be clearer. Basically, there is this hesitation before price just pushed above it. And you can see this resistance area that price interacted and broke above. So this is the candle that we highlighted on the 4 hours. You can see that following yesterday's dollar weakness, right? So gold is a dollar denominated asset. What this means is that if you look at XAU USD itself, right? So when dollar strengthen, gold tends to fall. So you can see the dollar strengthened yesterday, mainly because of the CPI data, right? So core CPI data came in way ahead of expectations of 0.3%. What this also shows you is that there could be more hawkish Fed going forward, right? Because Fed main goal right now is to clamp down or rein in inflation. They're trying to bring it back to the 2 to 3% target range. So when there's more hawkish Fed, when there's higher interest rates, then it helps to boost dollar, right? Because dollar then becomes a more attractive investment or more attractive hold as compared to your other currencies. So this is the reason why, right, on gold yesterday, following that data, we can see there is a strong drop on gold, mainly because of the dollar strength. And this drop itself also pushed gold back into the the demand area that we saw here, this H4 that we've highlighted last week. So on this region itself, you can see that this area, so let me zoom down, I believe to the 30 minutes time frame. So this was the area we highlighted. So on the higher time frame, you have this 4-hour support region. On your smaller time frame, we can see this interaction, right? So you can see price essentially coming into this region, tapping into this region, pushing higher. So this region, when I extend it across, you can see that price came in, right? And on the first hold itself, it did respected this region, so this area. So again, we highlighted this candle on the M15 last week. And the reason for that is because this was the last candle, again, the last push before the strong break above this resistance here. So you can see again, if you look at it in line chart, you can see it clearer as well. This was the hesitation before that push up. So we highlighted this candle as a possible demand area, and price came in, interacted with it once, pushed higher. Over here, you saw this once, and then this region as well, where there was this strong push down yesterday. So this was mainly on the dollar strength. Price came in, interacted with this region, right, before it actually went below it. But what is still holding is this H4 demand area that you see here. So right now, what I'm waiting for on gold, right? So currently you can see that this area itself, it is pretty much holding or rather consolidating, it's just moving sideways. You can see that it's respecting both a support and resistance area. So there's a range that it is holding within. Right now, what I'm waiting for on gold is a clear break above this area here. So let me just highlight this candle. So you can see that essentially, right, this candle itself, this candle interacted with the demand area here. And then you can see that before this, right, this is basically the candle that still holds before this blue region fails completely. So with that, it creates a supply region. So this is the candle, right? So essentially what I'm waiting for is a clear break above this area, this resistance area here, which is this level. So this is at 1712.13. So right now there is no setup for me on gold, right? It is sitting on the H4 support region, but right now it's moving very slowly as well. So I'm waiting for a clear break above this area, a pullback of it, right? Because this tells me is that this candle is an area that we have over here to fail. So if I extend it across, you can see that this was the previous demand area and price came in, interacted with this area over here. So let me just zoom in further. You can see price came in, it actually held within the area once. Maybe let me just put a marker here and go down to your smaller time frame. You can see that interaction, let's say on a 5 minutes. So essentially here, what we have is that price came in and interacted with this zone. Over here, you can see it held before it failed completely. So right now, this is on the 15 minutes. So this is basically the resistance I'm waiting for price to break above before taking the long. So this is on gold, right? So right now there is honestly where it is right now, there isn't any nice setup. So this is what we look at it in terms of the 4 hours. So you can see on the 4 hours time frame, right now prices are, it broke resistance. So let me just remove this. So this is the resistance area, was the previous support and resistance area. Price broke it, retested this region. So the new target in this case, right, if you look at just structure alone, this is the last pullback or the last high on the 4 hours. So this would be the 4 hours target for me. So you can put it in the high, you can put it in the line chart. You can see this is the region where essentially in line chart, you can see, right, there is this sharp movement, which drove prices into this area here. So for me, right, once price breaks above the 1712.13 level, right, because they're not relevant anymore. So in this case, right, this would be what we call the upside confirmation. So once price breaks above this region, right, I think that we could see more further push up. So this is on the 4 hours, you'll probably see this. Okay, so I see that, okay, so Hamid, you raised your hand, right? Oh, my audio is very poor. Okay, is this better now? Or is it still very poor? Maybe let me just stop the video just to see if it helps in the in the audio. Is this better? Okay, can the rest of you guys hear me clearly? I see. Okay. Yeah, probably due to the low bandwidth. All right. So yeah, I hope that this is better, right? Probably when I turn off the video, I think it should help with the bandwidth. Okay, so this region itself, right? So this is the upside confirmation, right? Okay, I have another question. Will possible incoming PPI data attack goals 1695 range? 1695 is way below. Okay, sorry. 1695. Oh, so this the same region that below this region. Okay, so this question by Trung, right? So essentially 1695. Let me just put a line across at 1695 first, and we'll take a look at this. So 1695 is at this region, right? I wouldn't say that it's not possible, but where we are right now, right? This is the demand area that I see, right? So if price breaks below this region, then I'm not interested in taking the long anymore, not until we have a clearer picture. So currently time frame, right, that we saw on the daily, you can see that this area over here, it is still bearish, right? So we saw price holding below this descending trend line. Right now, the clear structure that we have on the daily, it's basically this last move over here, right? So if price continues or if data comes out to be better than expected, if it pushes dollar higher, then gold could weaken further. In this case, right, if there is a clear break in market structure on your daily time frame, then this region itself, right, I would sit back and wait for a clearer setup to be formed. So there's always that possibility, right? But I would say that currently where it is right now, this would be the demand area. So this region over here. So this is the one that I'm keeping a lookout for right now. And the break above it, it's really this area here. So we went through this, right? So essentially this candle causes this blue zone that we have to fill. So when price breaks above this candle, what it shows me is that it could be a potential for more upside. So then you wait for the pullback to play the further move up. Once price breaks below this gray region that we have, then in this case, right, I'll just wait for a clearer setup. So there won't be any setup for me. So this is the view on gold. And then let's take a look at pound Aussie and Kiwi franc. Pound Kiwi and Aussie franc. I just got it mixed up. Okay, so let's take a look at pound Kiwi region itself. So again, right, on the higher time frame first, so you can see that when you go to the weekly time frame or the 4 hours, so I think previously we were on the daily, right? So essentially prices were testing this support region. We saw over here, right? Price came in, tested the support region, and you can see that when you go to the 4 hours time frame over here, right? So these areas are being respected. So on pound Kiwi, what we're waiting for, I believe on the 1 hour time frame, it's this region. So back when we saw this chart, we were looking at this region over here. Right, so we're waiting for a pullback into this area. So essentially prices pushing lower, and we're just waiting for a pullback into this area that we've highlighted on the 4 hours, right? So this was what we were waiting for, but you can see that price just missed this region slightly. It just continued higher after. This region itself lines up with the Fibonacci retracement and extension levels as well. So basically, like we covered in the earlier session, so there are a lot of confluence levels lining up here. So we're waiting for price to enter this region before taking the long up with this area, this high. This is the H4 high as the target. But in this case, right, price didn't enter into this region. It just tapped into the area, this candle here, and it just continued on the upside, right? So in this case, this didn't present an entry. So let me just play this. So you can see price just tap into this region and continue much, much higher after, right? And this candle itself, right? You can see this candle here. So price essentially tap into this candle, this area or this demand area that you have, right? So this demand area, which also actually tap into the previous demand area here. Okay, so in this case, right, there wouldn't be an entry because it didn't tap into the region, right? So for those of you guys who actually still caught this, right, that's great. So that's on pound Kiwi. And then the other one that we have, it's on Aussie franc. Right, so just before we hop on to the other chart. So on Aussie franc over here on the higher time frame, on the 4 hours, you can see that we highlighted both the support and resistance levels. So back when we saw the chart on Aussie franc, this was on here, right? So the prices are testing this region, essentially sitting on a resistance area. We went down to the 15 minutes time frame. You can see this region itself, right? Again, looking at the interaction between demand and supply. So our bias was more bearish on Aussie franc. So we were here in time where we saw this area. So the bias was bearish, right? Highlighting this two region as the support. So you can see that price broke below this region, pulled back again, and then after that, it just continued much lower. So if I have to extend this across, this is essentially how it played out. You can see price came into this region, respected the support area, right? So push lower, tap into the support area, and then into the support region over here, right? So this is on a higher time frame, which will also be the target, and just continue much lower. So this is on Aussie franc, right? So now let's take a look at what we have for the coming setups. So this would be on Aussie dollar and gold. So we covered on gold, right? So gold mainly, I'm waiting for the break of the resistance on the 15 minutes. And then let's take a look at Aussie dollar. So we start from the higher time frame down, right? So as usual, let's take a look at Aussie dollar here. Let me just remove all these drawings and let's start a fresh analysis. So in this case, right, you can see this region over here on Aussie dollar. We have this area. So essentially on the weekly time frame, you have this support region. And this is the support turn resistance area. Again, you can see how prices interacted with this region. It was support area and price tested this region. And then we tested this as a resistance. And then right now it's sitting on this region again. So we are seeing multiple interactions with this zone here. And then what you can do next, right? So as usual, we want to see if there are any retracement levels that line up at this region that we've highlighted, this blue zone. So on that, right, we can take a Fibonacci retracement of the move from low to high here. So this is the move before that pullback. So let's take a look at that. So Fibonacci retracement from low to high, open up the key levels, right? So these are all the default levels you can see here. So in this case, this level lines up nicely with the 50% retracement. You can see this 50% retracement over here. And then when we go on to the daily time frame, you can see that this is the last high that price put in. So it's still bearish structure coming into this region, right? And price put in a new high here and the low. So this is the range on the daily right now. You can see that this is the high and this is the low we have on the daily. And then let's take a look at the 4 hours. So on the 4 hours time frame, you can see this is basically the region currently where prices are still sitting on this area. It is holding above this support area still, right? So this is currently the region you can see on the 4 hours, right? So there isn't much difference in terms of where it is, right? What you have on the 4 hours, it's a new high and low over here. It's being formed. And then let's go down to the 30 minutes time frame. So on the 30 minutes time frame itself, you can see that this candle. So right now prices are just holding or rather moving below this region itself. So we have this support area, right? So if you look at it on the 30 minutes time frame, you can see just highlighting graphical support resistance areas, right? We have this area here. You can see how price reacted as a resistance and then broke above it, tested as a support. And then right now it is sitting on this region. So this is a resistance area to watch. Same thing, right? If we want to try and find Fibonacci retracement on this area itself, this is the move down, right? And if we see the pullback, you can see that this would be the high and this would be the low. So that's what we're going to do, right? Fibonacci retracement of the move from high to low here. So when you take a retracement of the move from high to low, right? So same thing, I want to open up the levels, right? What I do want to highlight is that when price comes into this region itself, right, depending on the lows over here, you will have to adjust it accordingly. But the concept is the same, right? So you can see on this region, this area that we've highlighted, this resistance lines up with the 61.8 retracement over here, right? So currently where it is, I think we are just waiting for the dollar data to come up, but you can see that on the higher time frame. So this is the, let me just lighten this color, right? So this is actually support on the higher time frame. So let me just put this probably in gray. And you can see on the 30 minutes time frame over here, right? Currently what we have, its prices are testing this region. So if you look at how price interacted with one another previously, just look at this candles alone here. You can see that this candle itself, right? So focus on this portion of the chart, right? This candle here. So essentially what we have, so let me just zoom into this portion and we'll take a look at that. So let me just put a marker here, right? And let's focus on the smaller time frame. So let's say the 15 minutes time frame. You can see what you have over here essentially is that, again, right, looking at graphical support resistance levels, this is a very clear resistance. You can see this region, right? So price came in essentially, price tested as a resistance. You can see this region and then it broke above it and it set on this level as a support. This region here, right? So this is the zone that we want to take a look at. So I'll just extend this area. So I'll highlight this area and I'll essentially extend it across and put it in a different color. So let's say in blue. So in this region itself, you can see that essentially, right, if we bring it back, this is the area that prices are currently sitting on. So you see this area. So this is the current support level that prices are sitting on. So right now what I'm waiting for, it's for a clear break. So you can see that right now prices are still forming, it's just consolidating, moving sideways. So as usual, you have resistance level holding over here. You can see this area. Right, this is the pink zone. So this is the resistance area that's holding. You can see how price interacted with this region and it's just pushing lower. So once price breaks above this region over here, again, I'm just waiting for pullback. So this is the upside confirmation, this level. I can put this, so it's about 6,750, right? Just for now, round numbers. So in this case, this is my upside confirmation, a pullback, right? So a break above this region and a pullback into this area, right? So depending on how price play out over here, this could be support and resistance area and to push higher here. So this is what I'm waiting for on Aussie dollar, right? So this is currently what we have here. Okay, so with that, those are all the setups that we have. And I believe those are all the questions as well. Okay, so I have another question, right? From your experience in Fibonacci retracement, which would be the ideal to use as an entry, 78.6 or 88.6? In general, I use more of the 61.8 and 78.6, right? So for 78.6 itself, right? So it really depends on, I think more importantly is the market structure, but both 61.8 and 78.6 works. So in this case, I don't really use 88.6, right? I use more of 78.6. So yeah, so that's from experience, right? And more importantly, if this levels itself, they line up with a trend line, then it could be very powerful. And especially when you have a trend line and graphical level, and then you have the 78.6 retracement, right? You can look at targets at negative 27.2 as well. So let me see if I actually have an example on it. So maybe let's just hop on to the chart for this, just to see if we actually have an example on this, right? So let's take a look at the 1 hour time frame. So you can see this region, right? So there are two targets in general, 61.8 and okay, so let's just focus on this portion of the chart. So you can see there's this prices are forming a lower lows and lower highs, consolidating on this region, and you see a clear break in structure here, right? So price broke above the last high. So once price breaks above the last high, it gives us more bullish move, right? Of course, this is just on one time frame. You need to combine the higher time frames picture, but you can see, right, on the break in structure. So price broke above the high here. You can see this break. And then there's this push up and the pullback. So on this pullback alone, right? So what we do, it's again, right? This is the last move before the pullback. So our retracement would be from the low to the high here. Okay, so this is the region that I'm focusing on, right? Just look at the left of the chart. So ignoring what we have here, this is mainly just to test out on the retracement level, right? And just to show the profit targets. So you can see on this move, right? You want to take the low from here and the high from here. So with that, Fibonacci retracement from low to high. Let me just turn on the magnet mode because this helps to capture the reversal points nicely. So from low to high, you can see that these are the two levels that I generally use, 61 and 78.6, and these are the profit targets. So I'll put it in blue, right? The profit targets. You can use 0.618 or generally I think just use 0.618. So you can see this region, right? So this was the target I was talking about at negative 0.27. So essentially, right, price comes in, it taps into the 78.6 retracement. You can see this area. So there is a push up and price came in, tapped into the 78.6, and then there is this target at negative 27 before it continues down. So there are a few things to keep in mind, right? One, it's of course, right, there is a bullish market structure form, at least on the 1 hour time frame itself, you can see price consolidated. On the higher time frame, it's probably sitting on some support region here as well. But on the 1 hour, you can see number one, a clear break in structure, signaling potential bullish or change in trend, and then a pullback to the 78.6, and then you can target the negative 27 as a resistance. This is the first level, and then this would be the second target. Of course, right, with that, you also want to keep in mind important support and resistance levels. You can see this region, right? So if I to highlight this region across, you can see this is the resistance. It also lines up with the negative 27. Why is this a resistance in terms of graphical level? Just look at how price reacted. There was support region twice before it failed completely. You can see this area here, this consolidation. If we put it in line chart, you can see this area as well. So strong support region here. Price came in, tested once, tested twice, right? But this is not double bottom because there is no break of neckline. And then it just continued to the downside. And then now this becomes a support and resistance area. It also lines up with the Fibonacci retracement. So yeah, this is one of the ways that you can use this, right? So I would say generally, I would use the 78.6, right? But it really depends on the setup, right? So depending on whether there is a key level on your 61.8, right? But either of this works, so 61, 78.6, and then after that, more importantly, there is a clear break in structure or change in direction of the trend. And then on that pullback, you can target negative 27 and negative 68 or negative 60, 0. So it's either you want to use negative 0.68 or negative 0.618. I would say for more conservative move, right, just use negative 0.618. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Okay, so I think with that, we have come to the end of the session and all the questions are answered as well. Yep, so we have answered all of the questions as well, right? So we have the schedule out on vantagemarkets.com/webinars. So for tomorrow, we will be covering specific topic as well. And then on Friday, we'll be doing a review of the setups, right? And if you guys have any questions as well, do put them under the chat box, right? Or you can also, if you're watching a recording, you can also reach out to me on LinkedIn. Right, so this is basically what we have for today, right? So for the schedule, do go to vantagemarkets.com/webinars. We have webinars for on Friday, Thursday and Friday as well, right? So I'll catch you guys for tomorrow. Trade safe, stay safe, and we'll catch you again tomorrow.